Walt Disney just celebrated his 119th birthday on December 5th, and sure, he might have died in 1966, but his memory lives on. Walt's life and times have always been a popular topic for conversation. In many ways, he exemplified what it means to achieve the American dream. He got his start as a lower-class student from the Midwest and wound up becoming one of the most influential people of the 20th century. His theme parks have become some of the most visited locations on the planet, and the characters he played a part in creating have become universally known. There are very few people on this planet unfamiliar with the Disney brand. But whenever someone becomes that famous, their high-profile image leads to countless rumors and myths that come out of the woodwork and ultimately cheapen their legacy. It doesn't even matter that much of this hearsay is completely unsubstantiated. The public tends to circulate misinformation long after such claims have been debunked. While we're not trying to say Walt Disney was a saint by any means, we do think it's time to lay to rest some of the more sensational and unfounded claims that have been waged against him. So let's start with the first ice-cold myth about the famed American entrepreneur. Disney was not cryogenically frozen. For some reason, this has been one of the most persistent rumors surrounding Walt Disney. Some people claim his entire body was frozen, while others believe he had just his head put on ice. The myth dates back to shortly after his death in 1966. After he died, he had a very private funeral ceremony, and very little information about the event was provided to the public. Imaginative writers, who probably read too many science fiction novels, then began to push the conspiracy theory that Disney had his body cryogenically frozen until the day science progressed far enough to reanimate him. As fascinating as this might be, there are zero facts to substantiate it. It's well known Disney was cremated just a few days after he died of lung cancer. His ashes were then interred at a cemetery in Glendale, California. You can even visit his memorial site if you want to. His daughter Diane penned a biography about her dad in 1972, where she stated there was no truth to the rumor her father wanted to be frozen after his death. Walt didn't create Mickey Mouse on his own. Even though the names Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse are essentially synonymous, Walt wasn't the one who actually came up with the iconic rodent. That credit goes to an artist by the name of Ub Iwerks. Disney's first creation was actually a character named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, but after losing the rights to that bit of intellectual property, Disney asked his buddy Iwerks to come up with a new character similar in design to Oswald, but not too similar. That was the moment Mickey Mouse was born. Just a couple of years later, Iwerks, after feeling like he wasn't receiving enough credit for the character, left Disney. He'd later return to the company, but never work in animation again. Disney isn't featured as a bust in the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland. Even though this would be a pretty stellar Easter egg for riders of the spooky attraction, Disney died several years before the ride opened on August 9, 1969. The actual busts have names: Rollo Rumpkin, Uncle Theodore, Cousin Algernon, Ned Nubb, and Phineas P. Pock, and it's pretty clear none of them resembles Disney in the slightest. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you give it a like, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Keep watching the whole video to find out if Walt Disney really was anti-Semitic as some people claim. Disney was not born in Robinson, Illinois. There's a pesky little rumor that keeps resurfacing every now and then that claims Disney was born in Robinson, Illinois, a small town some 200 miles south of Chicago, and that he was further named after a kindly townsperson who gave his father some work to help provide for his family during some financially sketchy times. While this story might be quaint and heartwarming, every single Walt Disney biography has stated he was born in the upstairs room of his parents' home in Chicago. The myth originated from a reporter who was trying to elevate themselves by associating their name with a famous person. Walt did not leave video instructions to the Disney Board of Executives. It's been alleged on numerous occasions that Walt left behind detailed video instructions about how he wanted the company to be handled after his death. This myth certainly seems plausible. Walt, after all, was very interested in the future, and he was, by all accounts, a pragmatic man. Unfortunately, this myth falls flat on its face when you start looking for evidence of the claim. When Walt suddenly died from lung cancer in 1966, Disney World was in the process of being constructed in Orlando, Florida. Walt's brother Roy decided it would be best if he put off his retirement so he could oversee its development, just as his brother likely would have wanted. During the 80s, Disney's stock fell after a string of lackluster films failed to do well at the box office. The era is typically referred to as the Bronze Age of Disney. The company actually was on the verge of being bought by another corporation before it experienced a tremendous revival in the 90s, now known as the Disney Renaissance. Given all this uncertainty for the company in the time following Walt's death, it remains unlikely he left behind any kind of specific instructions outlining his wishes for the next steps of the brand. Disney was probably not an anti-Semite. This rumor is just about as persistent as the cryogenesis one. It's been referenced in various pieces of media throughout the last several decades. Family Guy did a bit lampooning Walt's supposed hatred of Jewish people, and Meryl Streep referred to it like it was a well-known fact in 2014. However, accusations of Mr. Disney's supposed anti-Semitism have never been proven. Neil Gabler, a writer who penned a biography about Disney called Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination, noted that numerous Jewish people worked at Disney and none accused Walt of being an anti-Semite. On the other hand, Walt was one of the founding members of the Motion Picture Alliance, a group that allegedly had many closeted anti-Semitic members. So while there's no direct proof Walt had any personal ill will towards Jewish people, some would say he was complicit due to the company he kept. He didn't leave money in his will for the first man who managed to get pregnant. Where do people come up with this stuff? This has to be the most absurd rumor to make it on our list. We have no idea where this myth came from, but it's persisted for many years. It's a matter of public record that his will left 45% of his estate to his immediate family, another 45% to the Disney Foundation, and the last 10% he divvied up to his nieces, nephews, and sister. Nope, he wasn't born out of wedlock in Spain. This particularly wild and unsubstantiated claim traces its roots to a widely discredited pseudo-biography titled Walt Disney, Hollywood's Dark Prince by Mark Elliott. The book makes a number of claims, such as one that accuses Disney of refusing to lower the American flag at Disneyland after JFK's assassination, and another that alleges Walt worked as a spy against communists in Hollywood. But the Spain accusation asserts Walt was born in 1890 out of wedlock to a woman named Isabel Zamora somewhere in southern Spain, and he was later adopted by the Disneys. Of course, there's a mountain of evidence that Walt was born in Chicago in Elias and Flora Disney's home. There's not a shred of evidence for the Spain theory. The Disney logo is not Walt's handwriting. Pretty much everyone is familiar with the Disney logo. It's a cultural touchstone of sorts. The logo is sometimes referred to as a Waltograph, leading many to come to believe that it's in fact a representation of Disney's personal handwriting. The logo wasn't actually first used until 1984, almost 2 decades after his death. It's pretty difficult to find out what Mr. Disney's actual signature really looked like. Apparently, there were numerous people who were authorized to sign his name for him. Evidently, the logo is a stylized version of a signature that he was confirmed to make on numerous occasions. So while it might not be his exact mark, it is a derivative form. So perhaps we should say this particular rumor is only half false. In the future, do you think there will be as many rumors circling around dead celebrities? If only Disney blogged, documented his whole life on Twitter, and took more selfies, maybe some of these myths would be put to rest. There's one thing about Walt Disney we want to make perfectly clear. Just because we're debunking some myths around him doesn't mean he was completely without blame. Ever see Song of the South? That is one racist movie. So much so that Disney refuses to re-release it in any form or allow it to be screened in public. And then there are numerous reports of Disney making sexist remarks to his colleagues and employees. Granted, those were very different times than the ones we live in today. Not necessarily an excuse, just stating a fact. Do you buy into all the hype and think he was some kind of villain, or do you think he was probably an alright guy? Let us know what you think in the comments section. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Tap the bell icon to turn on notifications so you can keep up with all of our latest videos.